Are you alright? Please, take this. Everything is gonna be fine.
It was 2 in the morning, and I was still awake. The house was silent, with just the soft hum of the heater and the rhythmic ticking of the clock. On the living room wall, beside me, my husband Tyler snored heavily, completely unaware of how many times I had tossed and turned that night. At 26 weeks pregnant with twins, sleep had become almost impossible. Every time I tried to roll onto my side, a sharp pain shot through my lower back, and the babies shifted restlessly inside me, like they were practicing some chaotic little dance routine. I sighed, sat up slowly, and rubbed my swollen belly. "It's okay, little ones," I whispered softly, hoping somehow they could hear me. "We're fine. Mommy's just tired." There was no response. Of course, just another uncomfortable flutter, and a tiny kick beneath my ribs. I slid my legs off the bed, wincing, and shuffled toward the kitchen. My movements were slow and awkward. Walking felt like I was carrying 2 heavy bowling balls tied to my waist. I made a cup of tea and sat at the small dining table, staring out the dark window, while the kettle clicked off behind me. Outside, Columbus was quiet. The streets were covered in frost, the world still and asleep. Inside, my mind wouldn't stop racing. I thought about how we had gotten here. Me, exhausted and awake in the middle of the night, while Tyler slept peacefully, like he didn't have a care in the world. When I told Tyler I was pregnant, he had been ecstatic. He wanted a child so badly. He'd said things like, "We need someone to carry on the Carter name. Someone to look up to me." I thought it was sweet, even romantic. But when the ultrasound showed 2 babies, instead of 1, something in him changed. The excitement faded almost overnight. He stopped kissing my belly, stopped calling me his beautiful Sophia. Instead, he started making jokes, small, mean ones. He'd pinch the extra weight on my hips and laugh. "Careful, babe, you're going to roll away on me." Or when I waddled across the room, he'd mutter, "You look like a penguin." At first, I tried to laugh along. I told myself he didn't mean it. But as my body changed and my energy faded, his words started cutting deeper. Tyler still expected a spotless house, dinner on the table, his shirts ironed, everything perfect. And if I complained about being tired, he'd shrug and say, "You're pregnant, not dying. Every woman goes through it. Stop acting like it's a miracle." Sometimes, I'd cry quietly in the bathroom, so he wouldn't see me. I used to think we were in love. But lately, I felt more like live-in help than a wife. The sad part, I kept telling myself it would get better once the babies were born. That maybe he'd hold them, see their faces, and fall in love with me again. But deep down, there was a fear I couldn't shake. What if he didn't change? What if he stayed distant? Or worse, walked away? I sipped my tea slowly, blinking back tears. The warmth didn't comfort me like it used to. I suddenly realized I hadn't heard a kind word from him in weeks. The clock ticked toward 3 a.m., and I knew I wouldn't be sleeping again that night. So I rubbed my belly, whispered goodnight to my babies, and made a quiet promise to myself, no matter how lonely I felt, I wouldn't let them see me break. I hadn't always been this tired, heavy, or afraid. There was a time when my life felt wide open, full of choices and hope. I grew up an only child. My parents were older than most of my friends, moms and dads. My father was a history professor, gentle, quiet, a man who loved dusty books and long evenings with tea. My mother was an accountant, careful, precise, always balancing every penny. They never yelled, never fought. They believed problems were solved through calm words, not shouting. But when I turned 19, everything changed. My dad had a stroke. He passed away suddenly, leaving behind a silence no one could fill. My mom tried to stay strong, but cancer doesn't care about timing or effort. Within a year, she was gone too. Just like that, I was alone. I sold the house to pay for her treatments, leaving me with little more than a scholarship and a suitcase. I moved into the university dorms, determined to survive. But the truth was, I was lonely. I poured myself into studying English because it was something I loved, something that made sense when nothing else did. To earn a little money, I posted an online ad, affordable English tutoring, patient teacher, flexible schedule. That's how I met Tyler. He was 28 at the time, already working as a warehouse manager, but struggling with new international clients. He needed to improve his English for business. When he first showed up for lessons, I was nervous. He had this confident way of walking into a room, like he owned it. He smiled easily, asked about my day, and even paid me more than I charged. "You're worth it, Sophia," he said. "You're helping me more than you know." I remember blushing. I wasn't used to that kind of attention, especially from someone like him. He had a steady job, a nice car, everything I didn't have. Our lessons turned into conversations, and our conversations turned into dinners. He told me I was smart, that he admired how I kept going, even after losing my parents. He made me feel seen when I had felt invisible for so long. 6 months later, he asked me to move in. He said, "You don't need those tiny dorm rooms anymore. Come home with me. Let me take care of you." And I wanted that. I wanted to belong somewhere again. We got married quietly a year later. Just a courthouse wedding, and a dinner with his mother, Martha. I had no family left to invite. And Tyler didn't seem to care for big celebrations anyway. I told myself it didn't matter. That love was what counted. At first, married life felt good. Tyler liked that I cooked and cleaned. Sometimes he brought me flowers, or said how lucky he was. But little by little, things started to change. He began questioning why I still wanted to tutor, why I met friends from school. He'd laugh and say, "You don't need all that. I can provide for us. Just stay home, babe. Focus on me." At first it sounded sweet. Then it started feeling like a rule, instead of a suggestion. I stopped tutoring. I stopped going out with classmates. Eventually, I stopped doing much of anything, except keeping the house perfect for him. Looking back, I can see how slowly it all happened. How love turned into permission, and permission turned into control. But back then, I thought I was just being a good wife. The first year of marriage had felt normal enough. I told myself it was just two people learning to live together, adjusting to each other's habits. But looking back, it was an adjustment, it was control. Slowly wrapping around me like vines, until I couldn't move. It started with small things. Tyler didn't like me talking to old classmates. "Why do you even need them? You've got me now. Isn't that enough?" I thought he was joking. Until one day he grabbed my phone, scrolled through my messages, and told me he didn't like me talking to other men. Next came the tutoring. He said it wasn't worth the effort. Strangers coming in and out of our apartment make me uncomfortable. I make enough money for both of us. Just focus on the home. I quit because I thought that's what good wives did. I supported him, thinking it was love. Even holidays felt different. Friends invited me to parties and gatherings, and Tyler frowned. "You don't need that crowd. We can have our own fun." So I stayed home, curled up on the couch, while he played video games. One by one, my connections to the outside world disappeared, and I didn't even fight it. I told myself, this is marriage. This is commitment. Tyler's mother, Martha, only reinforced it. She'd call weekly, "Sophia, don't argue with him. Men need peace. Just focus on the house and starting a family. That keeps marriage strong." I had no one else. No parents, no friends, no support. Just Tyler and the life I thought we were building. When I first showed him the positive pregnancy test, his eyes lit up. He lifted me in his arms and spun me around. "I'm going to be a dad. Sophia, this is the best day of my life." For a brief moment, I believed he would change, that he'd soften, treat me as his equal again. Then came the ultrasound too, heartbeats instead of one. Twins. I still remember, his smile faltering. He went quiet on the drive home. That night, he barely spoke. From then on, everything I did seemed to annoy him. If I was too tired to cook, he complained. If I left laundry for the next day, he muttered, "What do you even do all day?" He hated how slow I moved, how big I had gotten. He joked about my swollen ankles and waddling, calling me a penguin. I cried a lot, though I hid it from him. I'd stand in the bathroom, staring at my reflection, whispering, "Just hold on. Once the babies are born, he'll love you again." But deep down, I already knew the truth. I wasn't his partner anymore. I was furniture, useful when needed, invisible when not. It was late December, a week before New Year's. I wanted the apartment to look nice. Before the babies arrived, Tyler had brushed me off when I asked for help. "I've been working all week, Sophia. I'm exhausted. Can't you handle one thing on your own?" I tried. I grabbed a stool, a bucket of warm soapy water, and a rag. My belly felt enormous, but I told myself I could do it. The stool wobbled as I reached forward. One terrifying second, and I felt weightless. Then came the crash, wood hitting tile, a sharp pain in my back as I fell. My breath caught. Then I felt a sudden warm rush between my legs. My water had broken. Panic set in. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone and called Tyler. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. My chest tightened, and tears blurred my vision. I scrolled through my contacts, intending to call a neighbor, but my fingers slipped. I accidentally called David Miller, Tyler's boss. Hello. A man's voice answered. I stammered. David, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you. My water broke. I can't reach Tyler. Please. I need help. There was no hesitation. Stay where you are. I'm on my way. Minutes later, David arrived at the door. His face was full of concern. He didn't ask questions. He didn't judge. He just scooped my hospital bag and helped me into the car. At the hospital, everything moved fast. Too fast. Nurses rushed me into a delivery room. You're early, sweetheart, one of them said. But don't worry. We'll take care of you. I gripped the side rails as contractions came, sharp and relentless. Where's my husband? I gasped. No one had an answer. Hours later, I held 2 tiny boys in my arms. Nurses whisked them to the neonatal unit. I was exhausted, numb, and alone, except for David, who stayed quietly in the hallway, pacing like a worried family member. 3 days later, I was discharged. The twins were stable but small. I clutched their carriers, feeling the fragile weight of my tiny sons. David was there again. You shouldn't be driving in this condition, he said gently. When we returned home, reality hit. Tyler's truck wasn't there. The apartment looked half empty. The TV stand was bare. Drawers were open, hangers swinging. On the kitchen counter lay a single sheet of paper. Sophia, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Don't try to find me. We're getting a divorce. No apology. No explanation. Just a few cold lines. I sank into a chair, clutching a baby carrier, stunned. My knees wobbled. Why? Why would he do this to us? David crouched beside me, calm and steady. You're not alone, Sophia. Not anymore. I'm here. We'll figure this out. I sobbed, finally letting all the fear and grief pour out. Then he asked gently, do you have anyone else to call? Friends? Family? No, I whispered. It's just me now. Then you focus on your boys. Let me help with the rest, he said. A week later, the phone rang just past midnight. It was Tyler. His voice was slurred, cruel. So you moved on with Miller, huh? Everyone knows. You ruined my life. I've got plans. Your apartment. My name's on the lease. Clear out in a month. My blood ran cold. Anger boiled up. He had abandoned us and now threatened our home. I called David immediately. He listened, firm and commanding, and promised he would handle it. Within days, his company launched an internal review. Tyler was caught trying to sell company secrets. The police arrested him. I sat quietly on the couch, watching my sleeping sons. No triumph, no satisfaction, just relief and finality. The weeks after Tyler's arrest were a blur. Lawyers, police, paperwork, all while caring for 2 tiny babies. I returned to tutoring, now online. Within a week I had students again. Slowly, I built a life of my own. David noticed always gently. He helped with car seats, diaper deliveries, lists of clients, but he never hovered. He gave me space to heal, while letting me know I wasn't alone. Chloe, his daughter, became like an older sister to my boys. Her gentle hugs and curiosity brought warmth to our home. A year later, the twins were walking, babbling, learning new words. My tutoring business was growing, providing stable income. I finally felt capable and independent. David and I took things slow. He gave me space, respected my boundaries. Somewhere along the way, I realized I saw him not just as a helper, but as someone I could trust, kind, steady, loyal. One evening, we sat on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the city skyline. I whispered, I don't feel scared anymore. He smiled softly, holding my hand. Good, because you don't have to be. Some nights I still think about Tyler, about betrayal and loss. But when I see my children laughing, Chloe helping, David smiling, I know I am exactly where I'm meant to be. Tyler, I heard he served his sentence elsewhere. He hasn't contacted the boys. I'm grateful. His chaos has no place in our life. And sometimes, I think back to that night, the fall, the accidental call to David. That wrong number saved my life. I rescued myself first. And now, together, we are safe, loved, and happy.